I cannot think of a better way to spend tax return money than on a book haul. Let's see what we've got. Welcome back to Paper Pages and Possibilities. My name is Christina. I am so glad to have you today to share one of my favorite things that I love to watch, and that is a book haul. I have a lot of books to go through. This is an accumulation over like the past, I would say since the beginning of the year, so about 3 months approximately, 2.5. But it's a lot of books. I kind of went crazy. So I'm going to start with the nonfiction. I actually did decide to get back into nonfiction. That was actually one of my favorite things to read over the last couple of years, mostly in like personal development. So I'm kind of starting to lean back in toward that. So for nonfiction, I've got Timothy Ferriss's Tribe of Mentors. And this is basically a short life advice from the best in the world. It's basically got a huge list of famous people and talking about their advice. So really good. Looking forward to that. Next we have, this is called The Untethered Soul by Michael A. Singer. I got this one because it was like a contemplative type book, kind of introspection. So let's see. What would it like to be free from limitations and soar beyond your boundaries? What can you do each day to find this kind of inner peace and freedom? The Untethered Soul offers a simple, profoundly intuitive answer to these questions. Whether this is your first exploration of inner space or you've devoted your life to the inward journey, this book will transform your relationship with yourself and the world around you. So I thought that sounded really interesting, and it's fairly short. Next, I have How to Take Smart Notes. This is actually the basis for a note-taking system called the Zettelkasten. I will leave a link in the description to someone I know on YouTube who I discovered this from. And this is the source that he got the Zettelkasten information from, so I figured I would read the source, kind of learn some ways of recording all the information I like to gather. And last nonfiction is kind of I think it's a biography or memoir. It's called The End of Your Life Book Club by Will Schwalbe. And this is about a mother and son. Mother is going through cancer treatment, and during the time that the mom is going through cancer treatment, her and her son basically develop a relationship over reading books together as part of a way to help them through the situation. So I thought that was really interesting. Be interesting to see what books they choose to read and what they learn from them. So that is that one. Now on to fiction, which there's quite a few. First, I have Out to Canaan by Jan Karon. This is book number 4 in the Mitford series, At Home in Mitford. I've read number 1. I have number 2. I think I have number 3. So this will be number 4. There's quite a few in this series. I don't remember exactly how many, but next we have, this is called Excavation by James Rollins. I got this one primarily because of the cover. I thought it was really interesting. So it's actually a couple of layers. If you see this little triangle here, there's a hole, and it's got not one page, but 2 pages with holes before you get to the final image. So, and that by itself just intrigued me. but it looks like it's really up my alley, like in the vein of Douglas Preston or maybe some of Michael Crichton, something like that. So this says, the South American jungle guards many secrets, and a remarkable site nestled between two towering Andean peaks hidden from human eyes for thousands of years. Dig deeper through layers of rock and mystery, through centuries of dark, forgotten legend, into ancient catacombs where ingenious traps have been laid to ensnare the careless and unsuspecting, where earth-shattering discoveries and wealth beyond imagining could be the reward for those with the courage to face the terrible unknown. So, really looking forward to this one. Next up is one in the ergodic literature genre. This one is called Multiple Choice. If you happen to watch my video many months ago on ergodic literature, this is one of the ones I had talked about but did not have at the time. And this is basically a story told in the form of multiple choice questions. I don't know how that's going to work exactly, but I do know, I mean, it's full on got multiple choice questions. So I'm very curious to see how that goes. It's about love and family, authoritarianism and its legacies, and the way in which, rather than learning to think for ourselves, we are trained to obey and repeat. So this is going to be interesting and very short. Next up, this is one that I was not aware of, but I have been a very big fan of this author ever since I was a teenager, and that is The Wolf Gift by Anne Rice. I have actually read most of her vampire series and did not know that she had written another, I think this is part of a series, and this is a werewolf series. So, very intrigued. And if there's more, then you shall see. I love Anne Rice. She made me fall in love with New Orleans when I was a teenager, and I've been wanting to get there ever since. Yeah. So, looking forward to this. Next up, we have one called The Paper Magician by Charlie Holmberg. I got this one primarily because it says paper, and that always is going to draw me in. It is a fiction book, and it says at the top, bound to a magic she never wanted, a young apprentice falls deeper into its mysteries when she must use everything she has learned from her master in order to save him and his heart. So that's just a little snippet, and also a fairly short book, so going to be interesting. And then we have another one by Blake Crouch. This is one I did not know was out there, but I discovered it in a used bookstore. This is called Desert Places by Blake Crouch. And let's see. It says, there is a body buried on your property, covered in your blood. The unfortunate young lady's name is Rita Jones. In her jeans pocket, you'll find a slip of paper with a phone number on it. Call that number. I strongly advise against going to the police, as I am always watching you. So, sounds like a suspense thriller, maybe getting pinned for a murder he didn't commit. We'll see how that turns out. All right, next group. We have The Buried Giant by Kazuo Ishiguro. Got this at used bookstore, primarily on the author. So it says, the Romans have long since departed and Britain is steadily declining into ruin. The Buried Giant begins as a couple, Axel and Beatrice, set off across a troubled land of mist and rain in the hope of finding a son they have not seen for years. They expect to face many hazards, some strange and otherworldly, but they cannot yet foresee how their journey will reveal to them dark and forgotten corners of their love for one another. So somewhat of a romance, And I'm getting vibes of fantasy, something like that. All right, next up we have Cormac McCarthy's The Road. I have been kind of on and off trying to decide whether I want to read this book or not. I know it's apocalyptic, post-apocalyptic rather, and that's the kind of genre I do enjoy. But I have heard that it's a very challenging emotional read, so that kind of makes me hesitate. But it was from a used bookstore at a good price, so I figured why not? Hopefully one of these days I will feel up to it. Then we have a book that I have seen from several YouTubers that highly recommended. It's called First Time Caller by B.K. Borison. This is a romance, basically a retelling or very similar story as Sleepless in Seattle, which is a romance I enjoyed. So that right there just made me very interested, and I believe that so throughout the book it does actually have several like excerpts from the radio show that is part of the story. So looking forward to that. Next we have The World We Make by N.K. Jemisin. She has become one of the top authors, one of my favorite authors for me. And so I have been determined to get pretty much the rest of her work. This is the follow-up to The City We Became, which I read toward the end of last year. Really good, and I'm really looking forward to seeing the continuation of that story and how it resolves, if it does in this. I think it's, let me see if it's a duology. Yeah, I think it's just a duology, so it should wrap up in this book. So looking forward to that. I have Acceptance by Jeff Vandermeer. This is book number 3 in the Southern Reach series. Again, the first one, Annihilation, I was absolutely fascinated by. And I did get the second one at one point, I think toward the end of last year. So now I've got the third one. And it's about a place called Area X that has been like sequestered from the rest of Earth in sort of a bubble area, and it seems to be like an alien species that's taken over that area or something like that. That's probably the best I can explain at the moment. So there's that one. But we're not done. I've got 6 more. Next up, we have The Spell Shop by Sarah Beth Durst. I have seen this on many YouTubers' videos as kind of a cozy fantasy, and I do love the cover. This is really beautiful. I would just love to live in that setting. So I'm going to check that out at some point this year. Next, we have a book called The Fifth Science, and it's by Exurbia. So I don't really know much about it except what I've read on the back of the book. It says the galactic human empire was built atop 4 sciences: logic, physics, psychology, and sociology. Standing on those pillars, humans spent 100,000 years spreading out into the galaxy, warring, exploring, partying, the usual. Then there was the 5th science, and that killed the empire stone dead. So this is a story collection, 12 stories beginning at the start of the galactic human empire and following right through to its final days. We'll see some untypical things along the way, meet some untypical folk, galactic lighthouses from the distant future, alien tombs from the distant past, murderers, emperors, archaeologists, and drunks, mad mathematicians attempting to wake up the universe itself. Just sounds like a really, really intriguing set of stories, maybe somewhat in the vein of cosmic horror, potentially, which I do also go for. Next, another one that I have seen several YouTubers talk about a while back is called Fang Fiction. This is something that, interestingly enough, it's about someone who had enjoyed a fantasy novel with vampires. So she's a fan of a vampire series and doesn't believe vampires actually exist. And then she gets an invite into this place where it actually turns out to be vampires. And looks like it's a romance as well. So this is appealing in a couple different ways. One, I like vampires. Two, I like romance. Three, when I was a teenager, I did a tiny bit of short story writing. And one of the stories I actually wrote was of myself writing a letter to Anne Rice, saying that if the vampire Lestat was real, I would really enjoy getting to meet him or something like that. And at the end of the story, he actually appears, and yeah, that kind of thing. So it's just interesting that I had this idea, this type of idea in my head when I was a teenager, and I'm very curious to see how that plays out in this book. Next, we have Into the Drowning Deep by Mira Grant. Another one I have seen talked about a lot. It says the ocean is home to many myths. Some are deadly. 7 years ago, the Atargatis set off on a voyage to the Mariana Trench to film a mockumentary, bringing to life ancient sea creatures of legend. It was lost at sea with all hands. Some have called it a hoax, others have called it a tragedy. Now a new crew has been assembled. Some seek to validate their life's work. Some seek the greatest hunt of all. Some seek the truth. But for the ambitious young scientist Victoria Stewart, this is a voyage to uncover the fate of the sister she lost. So, very intriguing, especially if it's got mermaids. I am interested, and it sounds like kind of a horrific version of mermaids, maybe? Let's see. Alright, almost done. Last two are books to round out a series that I started last year, and we get back to more N.K. Jemisin. Actually, this way. We have Obelisk Gate and The Stone Sky. This is book 2 and 3 in the Broken Earth series. The first one, which I read and was my book of the year last year. So I am excited to jump back into that world and learn more about, like, the big thing. The way this series started is with the one quote, "This is the way the world ends. This is the way the world ends for the last time." And it hasn't ended yet. So I'm curious to see if it ends by book 3 or what. All right, so I think that is it for today. I hope you enjoyed the book haul. I know I love enjoying watching people do book hauls. If you know about or have any opinions about some of the books that I have shown, please leave your comments below. Any positive, negative, whatever. No spoilers, of course. And if there's anything you'd be interested in reading in the near future, let me know too. I'm also open to doing maybe a buddy read or maybe a group read, something like that. That's one of my goals for the year, is to do some sort of collaborative event. So let me know. And if you enjoyed the content, please give me a like. And if you would like to see more, feel free to subscribe. But that is it for now. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.